Hello and welcome to the demonstration for BI4ALL reports. My name is Peter Nolan and I'm the founder of Instant Business Intelligence. In this presentation we're going to go through the introduction of why have report services reports, and I want to explain that because a lot of people when they see the reports believe that we're saying this is the set of reports you should have, the only set of reports you should have. And I want to explain that in some detail. I want to explain the fundamental design techniques of the reports and what's common across the reports, so that when you see the video demonstration of the reports you'll understand what it is that you're seeing. I'll talk briefly about the subject areas, and then we'll cut the demonstration of the report video into this video presentation prior to summarizing at the end. So why does IBI have report services reports as opposed to any other reports? When we were first developing BI4ALL in 2005, Microsoft announced that it would deliver report services as a new reporting platform. Now, one of the issues with putting a reporting platform on front of a set of data models is that the reporting market is fragmented, and any number of reporting tools could be used to have a reporting platform. Being a small firm, we can't afford to have a number of different front ends for our reporting platform. This was attempted during my days in Sybase, and it was a relatively expensive and time-consuming waste of time to try and deliver reports in a variety of different tools over the top of the then Sybase IWS data models. So when Microsoft came out with report services, we took a look at that and we thought it was really good. It was an early release, admittedly, and we understood it was an early release, but we expected that Microsoft would be very successful with report services. The winning feature of report services is that it was a report definition language based reporting tool, and so it was edited in Visual Studio and it produced an XML document. And at the time it was considered that RDL would be the future of reporting, and that reporting tools would be able to exchange reports between them using the RDL language. At least that was the vision. Of course, 6 years later that vision has not been fulfilled. It was expected to be fulfilled at that point in time. So it was expected that if we built reports in report services, that at some future point in time those reports could be imported to other tools. That never happened. Report services was also bundled with SQL Server 2005, and this was going to be a very low cost solution for a reporting application for those customers who used SQL Server. So we thought this looks like a very handy tool. It's very good, it works well. Microsoft is going to get behind it and push it. It should be able to be deployed onto other reporting tools in the future, and it should present a very good example. The reporting market, as I mentioned, was fragmented, and it still is, so we figured out of the variety of different reporting tools that we could look at, report services seemed the most sensible. The other point was that we were an MSDN, and we were doing all our development on Microsoft platform, so it seemed quite sensible to use report services. Now, these reports that we developed at the time were never intended to be a finished product. They were intended to demonstrate this is what is possible if you go with this kind of technology, and if you go with some other kind of technology, then you should look at how we have done these things to make the applications highly customizable at runtime rather than at development time. We invented a whole set of new ideas about how to use custom assemblies in report services. We then combined our report services reports with Dundas, and the results were very reasonable for this time, 2006. Now, nowadays, in 2012, we have stabilized these reports in favor of data model development. we had many customers look at these reports and understand them, but customers, as we expected, went forward with things like Business Objects or Cognos as their actual report deployment tool. So our reports were not used in anger, but they were looked at and people understood them and understood what we were talking about, which was the intention of them. So I want to be clear that the intention of doing the reports like this was so that customers could see what it was that we had done and use whatever knowledge they wanted to glean from that and then implement that in whatever tool they wanted to implement it in. Now there are some fundamental design techniques in these reports, and we will show you how these were implemented in Visual Studio in just a second. Now all objects were to refer to a thing called a custom assembly, and in Visual Studio this custom assembly is written in Visual Basic. The full custom assembly is available in documentation in our download, on our downloads page, in the BI4ALL evaluation documentation. All reports were to refer specifically to stored procedures and not have any SQL coded within the report themselves. All reports were to be customizable at runtime as much as was possible. It was intended not to try and customize these reports at design time, but have the custom assembly customize the reports at runtime. It was intended that multiple languages be supported from a single base language, and of course the single base language used was English. Multiple currencies had to be supported, multiple countries had to be supported, and maps had to be supported. So what we wanted to do was to provide a demonstration that showed what could be done with as little thought as possible on report services. This is allowing our clients to use other tools over our models. So that was the whole purpose of creating this. So here we are inside the BI4ALL Visual Studio for our report projects. And you'll see that we have 4 projects: campaign analysis, reports for the campaign analysis, which you will see in a demonstration shortly, the IBI-RS custom class, that's IBI Report Services custom class, and you can see that on the left hand side here, our sales analysis, and our segmentation analysis reports. So obviously each one of these reports is a report services report with RDL like any other report. There was quite a lot of development effort into creating these reports. Many hundreds of hours of effort went into creating these reports, and they are quite useful as a base to learn from. The A reports being the dashboard type reports, and the C reports being the detailed reports. Now just a little bit about the IBI-RS custom class, because it is fully documented and you can go read it. If you want to do things like calculation percentage, you have to protect the numerator or denominator is 0. So protecting that and then having percentage be the numerator divided by the denominator. Things like calculate variance percentage. You take the actual minus the plan and divide it by the plan to give the variance. You have to protect for 0. Things like set variance color. You give the variance and you calculate the variance, and then if the variance percentage times -1 is true, then it's tomato. If it's greater than variance is greater than variance percentage, then it's light green. Otherwise it's pale goldenrod. And those were the colors that were used in report services. Same thing for set segment stats percentage colors. So this is setting the colors of segment stats. But many other things are down here. So we'll go down to some of the others. This is formatting currencies. So given the currency, how is the currency formatted? This is formatting with no decimal places. Reporting currencies. But then you have things like color title background, color text background, title font, Trebuchet Microsoft, total font size 12 points, color boxes steel blue. So you can see show boxes font size 8 points. So you can see that you've got the format or the parameter of the font for parameters. You've got the font size for parameters, headings, parameter fonts and sizes. So you can see in the custom assembly that many pieces are being set with fonts and font sizes and colors and things like this. And so what the reports do is call the custom assembly to go and retrieve the values of these things and what they should be. So we'll go into a report and we'll actually see where this is called. Okay. So here is show report parameters. If we look at properties, we'll see font. We'll see that the font is IBI_RS custom class show boxes font. That's the font. Okay, and the size is show boxes font size. Okay, so rather than selecting a font from one of these values, we call the custom class to go and get the font and the font size. So if we pick anything in here, campaign group, properties, font, it'll give us parameters font and parameters font size. Okay, so the size of these things are set by the custom assembly. If we go into an actual report, an actual box, now this is Dundas as it was at the time, and data, we go into here, age band, properties. Okay, so we've got labels RR, properties, value, hide total line, currencies for IBM custom class, calculate variance percentage, a sum on these things. So this is the sort of thing that we were doing, passing these kind of expressions into the custom assembly. Data points. When we look at data points, we have marker color. The marker color is set variance color in the custom class, passing this set of fields into the variance color. And labels, series, or labels with the format, formulas, none there. So data points, appearance. So the data point appearance would be set variance color, etc. End color would be again set the variance color. Gradient style would be chart data point appearance gradient. You go and get that from the custom assembly. And hatching style would be chart data point appearance hatching. Okay. So I just wanted to give you a flavor of this is how the custom assembly was invoked inside the chart objects, inside the report services reports. And if you read the RDL for the report services reports, it's quite clear what's going on inside the RDL. And all the reports are developed in a similar way. Virtually every aspect of every report is controlled through that custom assembly. Also through the custom assembly you saw things like the formatting of currencies and the number of decimal places for currencies and things like that. And so the custom assembly also managed the formatting for currencies and all those kinds of things. Now here we are back to our presentation. There were three subject areas developed in terms of reports: campaign analysis, sales analysis, and segmentation analysis. You'll see them through the demonstration that we are about to see. So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut in a 45-minute video, which is the live reports running, and hopefully this will cut in okay, and you should next see the opening for the 45-minute presentation for the reports. And here we are at the welcome screen, or the first screen, for the BI4ALL base reports. This is using SQL Server reporting services. This is the 2005 version of reporting services. These reports have not been upgraded to 2008 R2. We'll see that the first thing you notice is that there's a language. The reports can be delivered in any number of languages that the customer would like them to be delivered in. We of course only deliver in the base English language. Our German partner Keywork obviously delivers in English and German, and these reports have all been converted to German. So for other countries, any of the other European languages are easily supported with the conversion of the base reports to a variety of languages. We see that there are three subject areas: campaign analysis, sales analysis, and segmentation analysis. And what we're going to do is just go through the reports in each of these subject areas. When we click on campaign analysis, we see there are two types of reports. One with a CPA, so CPA stands for campaign analysis, and A is for the dashboard or the high level. And just a CPA report is just a report services report at the detailed level. As you can see, there are about 15 or 20 reports in this package, and they're all quite similar. You'll see campaign revenue variance by age, by gender, by marital status, by income band, by life stage, by number of dependents. Those 6 categories are the most predictive categories for campaign analysis. So we have 3 reports here which act like dashboards. So let's just click on Campaign Revenue Variance Summary. We'll see, as in all normal report services reports, we have a set of parameters, and each of these parameters, as explained in the presentation, are populated with stored procedures behind the parameters. So we have a number of years, and we have the months of the year. We can have campaign groups and campaign names. Now of course the standard feature of report services is that you can pass a selected parameter through to the other dependent parameters and further constrain the selections that are available. So all the standard functions of report services are of course there and utilized, and we are just using those for these demonstration reports. So we always have a parameter that says select report yes, because in report services, if all parameters are filled in, the report will automatically run. So we turn run report to no, and that requires us to set it to yes to be able to run the report. Naturally the star character is the wildcard, and we just click on view report and it will generate the report, and that will just take a few seconds. Now we'll close the drills here so that it's easier to see. We are recording on 1024 by 768, so that just limits the screen size a little bit. On a report we can show the report parameters. So this button to show report parameters allows us to see what parameters were selected when the report was run. This is obviously necessary if you print a report and give the PDF to somebody. When you give the PDF to somebody, it has to have the parameters printed on it. Also, if you export the report to Excel or other tools like that, it has to have the parameters on it so that you can understand what the report is showing you. Online, when you've just set the parameters for yourself, you can turn the parameters on and off. So here we have a report that is revenue variance by age, by revenue and units variance, by age, by a variety of things. So let's just go to the parameters again. We wanted currency EU, we wanted year 2012, and all the campaigns under there. And what we get is these are what we call helicopter charts. The reason that they were called helicopter charts is they tend to put the good in green at the top right hand corner and the bad in red down in the bottom left hand corner, and then you could print these and flick through the pages to gain an understanding of the correlations of the things that were affecting the campaigns. So here we have age band and revenue variance by age and units variance by age. Next is by gender. Next is by marital status. Next is by income band. Next is by life stage. And lastly by number of dependents. Now the reason that these charts were designed like this is to repeat what we were working on in the 90s. We used charts like this very effectively in the 90s to understand the response rates by various attributes of campaigns. Those 6 categories are the 6 categories that are most indicative of how people will respond to campaigns. Of course, there are new things that can be added, but despite the fact that we've been doing this for many years, these are the sort of categories that show that consistently are predictive of responses. Obviously green is good and red is bad, and amber is in the middle. The way that is managed is by this parameter, percent variance. When it is set to 5%, anything that is in plus or minus 5% of variance is considered inside variance, and so it will be coloured yellow. Things that are above 5% will be coloured green, and things that are less than 5% will be coloured red. And this can all be managed in report services. Now if we want to look at revenue variance by age and we want to drill through this report, we notice that there's a little 3 buttons over here, 3 little dots, and this says, when you float over the 3 little dots, it says click here to drill down. So each of these reports, each of these diagrams has 3 little dots to click here to drill down. So when you click there to drill down, you'll see we will drill through, and we're drilling through to a report, CPA 0101B, revenue variance by age. So we've got this high-level dashboardish like report, and it is perfectly well understood that in report services in 2006, this was the best kind of dashboard report you could draw. Simple bar charts using the Dundas charts and putting dots on there to be able to drill down. Now that we're in 2012, many vendors have adopted Stephen Few's work and built things that are much more easy to dashboard. Now in 2006, when I first met Stephen Few, I started talking to people about his work, and Dundas was one of the companies that I talked to about his work. Subsequently, Dundas sold its chart technologies to Microsoft and focused on dashboards, which contain a lot of Stephen Few's work. So hopefully I've done a little bit of good by talking to as many people as I could about Stephen and the work that he did. So it's not as if I don't understand the work of Stephen Few. It's not as if we don't understand what dashboards look like. These were dashboards built in 2006, 6 years ago, which were the best that could be done in that time with those products. So as we've drilled through to this report, the report parameters are the same parameters that we had in the above report. The parameters are carried through. Now in the various charts we see these are the same two charts that were carried through, but if we actually look at the report itself, we have one report which is drillable, and so obviously we can go through and drill through this report and we'll find our campaign hierarchies and things like that and our sub-campaigns, and this one was by age band, and so we have age band, drillable all the way down to age band. And we can also go through these other sub-campaigns and drill down to age band. So we created these reports with these drills so that people could see them and understand them and how these drills could be implemented in report services and things like that. We showed how color coding could be implemented in report services. If we want to turn off this report and show the next report, the next report has campaign hierarchy but without the time. So the same sort of drills but without the element of time. So if we go here, we see totals 2012 January, and if we scroll down we see that the 2012 January is missing from the other report. Now these reports are all built directly in report services and make use of report services. So let's see something else, response rates variance summary. And we'll just run it for everything. And we'll close these. Now this is taking, the first one was a plan versus actual. This one is an over and under chart. Now what this takes is it takes a subgroup and it calculates the over or under representation of the subgroup against the entire group. So this is a very useful chart for marketing analysis, to be able to say who are the people who are overrepresented and who are the people who are underrepresented in these groups. Now again, we've done this over-under by age, income, gender, marital status, life stage, and number of dependents. And we can see again age, if we can see that the 36s to 40s are over, and of course this is just test data, and the 26s to 30 are well under. Again, just being test data, because obviously the 11 to 15s are also over. So if we look for the three dots on the screen, we'll see that they are here, and we can click down and click to drill through, and we'll see the same chart, and we'll see we have the ability to show the parameters, report parameters. Now we can close this chart and then have a look by age band. And what we can see by age band is we then have the number of solicitations, the number of responses. We have the estimated responses. Now the estimated responses takes the actual response rate from the total, which is 36.11, and it calculates how many people should have responded given the number of solicitations. So if the response rate is 36.11 for the entire group of 36 with 13 responses, this column tells us how many responses we should have, and this column tells us how many responses we got. So by taking these numbers we can get the response rates variance for each of the age bands. So response rate variance for each age band is a critical measure for any kind of marketing analysis. Now this is by age band, so you can go through and sort it by age band, and then this is the same response rate variance where it's sorted descending by response rate. So you'll see the age bands seem unsorted. That's because it's sorted on the response rate. If we turn those two charts off, we can have a drillable report, And in the drillable report, we can go through and look at the campaign groups and the campaign names and the subgroups, and we can get down to the age bands inside the sub-campaign. Yeah? So that's how that looks as a report to be drilling through. Now, of course, this is normal to drill down through reports and see which groups are performing well, etc. But you might just want to print the whole thing out or send the whole thing to a PDF, in which case you just click on the flat report, and here's the flat report showing you all groups, all names, etc. with the amounts next to them. Obviously, this is a set of test data. The next report is campaign response rates variance by amounts. And we'll just select yes amongst the campaigns. And we'll minimize this. And so now we have the response amount, the actual amount of the response, not just the number of responses. Okay? So the amount that's responded with is also an important measure. And the same thing by age, income, gender, marital status, etc. So if we click on, this is the chart for age, if we click on the drill for age, we'll go down and we'll get the same report. And if we turn that off and we want by age band, we'll see by age band the response amount, the number of responses, and then the average response amount. So there were 13 responses for 1,200 euros, and the response amount averaged 93.85. Okay. So for each age group, we have the response amount, the number of responses, the response amount per response compared against the average. So then it measures the response per amount, the response amount per response, compares it against the average, and sets the response variance. Okay. So in the 5 to 10, average is 80. Average for the group is 93, so it's down 13.85, which is 14%. Whereas 90 is down 3.85, which is 4%, hence the yellow colouring. 100 is 15 above 93.85, so that's 6.5% above. So this is showing us the average response for the group, and then the average response for the subgroup, and calculating the variance. And then you can sort that by variance amount, like this. You can have the drillable report. We'll turn that variance amount off. You can have the drillable report, where you can click on these plus signs to go down into the various campaigns and the various age bands. Or you can turn off the drillable report and click on the flat report, and the flat report will just produce you everything, and you can produce the flat report and show report parameters, and you can have this report of your campaigns and the age bands and response amount. Now obviously all 6 different areas are sliced and diced like this and presented on these reports. So this is how campaign analysis can be done. This is not to say this is how it must be done, but things like the campaign variance, overs and unders, by amounts and by solicitations, by these 6 categories, the basics of doing any campaign management. If you're not using these things in campaign management, then this would be where you would start, and you would become familiar with these things before trying to move on. Now let's look at sales analysis. It's a similar thing. You can see the various reports. I don't want to go into this too much because it's very straightforward. Sales and units variance as a summary. meant to say all quarters. So this is show report parameters. We'll see that that was for all quarters. So you see revenue variance by region, units variance by region, by country, United Kingdom, Spain, Germany, France, Italy, as some examples. Revenue variance by product. I've created some products called motor accessories, white goods, travel, entertainment. And this is revenue and units variance by these things. So if we want to drill down into the product categories, we would click here to drill down. And we would be presented with a similar set of reports. Revenue variance and units variance by product category. We can turn off the charts and show the drillable reports. So in here you have the year month. So in 2012, in these months, and you can notice the months are sorted. Here's the plan amount, the actual unit amount, the planned sales amount, the actual sales amount, and then the variance for plan versus actual for sales, and plan versus actual for units, and color coded for good or bad. So in June we can drill down through to the entertainment, home, MP3s, iPod 40 gigabytes, or home improvement, indoor, paint, 4 litres of baby blue. Okay, so this is the product hierarchy underneath the year and month. So we have totals, year, month, product hierarchy. We can drill down to the plan values. In the drillable report 2, it is the same except without the month and year added, because it's assumed that you've drilled on the month and year that you want. So again, we'll see motor accessories, things like enhancement, wheels, 15-inch mag wheels. Okay. And then we can show the flat report 1, and the flat report 1 is going to print all this stuff out in quite a longer report. Okay, so you see home, DVD, Star Wars, travel, domestic, the Cork tour, white goods, washing machines, Maytags. These sorts of things are the product hierarchy provided in the test data. This, as I said, has the month in it, and then the flat report 2 has no month in it. It's just constrained as a report and shows you the numbers. Okay, so these are the kind of reports that are quite useful for sales: plan amount, plan unit amounts, actual unit amounts, plan sales amount, actual sales amount, things like that. In sales analysis, we also wanted to do mapping. So we did sales units and sales revenue in cities. So we'll just click on revenue in cities. And you can see the product categories and the product groups, commercial, domestic, etc., and subgroups. So this is just a normal product category with a whole bunch of product names in there. We click View Report for the map. And because this was developed for our German business partner, the map is of Germany, and this is with something as simple as Dundas Maps. This is not using Esri or any of the more complicated mapping products, and it was just to show that it was possible to create a map, show the revenue range by the size of the bubble on the map, and then be able to click. You see when you put the mouse over Stuttgart, you'll see it turns into a little pointed finger, which means that city is drillable. So it's possible to drill on the city to go through to the next level of report. And here is a chart. I'm not quite sure why it moves off to the right, but it's showing you actual units, plan units, and the variance percentage on that chart over the period of 2012. If we want to turn that chart off and show the report, we see that for 2012 June through December, plan amount, actual sales, and the revenue variance and the units variance. Now if you want to look at report parameters, we clicked on the city of Stuttgart, and we can see that that city name was brought through as a report parameter. So what I've demonstrated there is it's possible to produce something like a map and have the cities or the states or whatever marked on the map as the active component of the map. It's then possible to click on that, and the tag from that gets dragged through as a constraint on the drilled through report, which is quite a nice thing to do. So that's a little bit on sales analysis, and obviously we have sales revenue by age and gender and all those things as well. The last thing I want to show you just briefly is segmentation analysis. Now segmentation analysis is something that we developed in about 2006, and the idea is that for every sale that indicates something about the customer, the product catalog is marked and the product earns points in the various categories that get created. And for each set of categories, we have 64 categories, and 64 being the number of squares on a chessboard. And so a person earns membership of a category by the points accumulated for sales and or usage of product as defined by the product catalog. That's how the product catalog segmentation works. So the segmentation engine trawls through the database to look for sales and joins those sales of those products up to the product points table and marks out the points for each product sale. Now we actually have many versions of that, so you can actually run as many versions as you like of the product catalog segmentation engine, which does mean it's very heavy on CPU, but it gives you a very good insight into the characteristics of the people if the products that you sell indicate the characteristics of the people. Now where we developed this was actually in a large pharmacy chain, chemist chain. And in a chemist chain or pharmacy chain, the products that people buy tell you a great deal about the person who's buying those products. And indeed, for the case of prescription medicines, sometimes it tells you more than you should know, and those types of products have to be excluded from this kind of analysis. So we might have something like segment membership points. So segmentation type is something like product catalog segmentation or demographics or relationship or societal, things like that. So we're just looking at product catalog segmentation. And you can see we have the model version. So what I said was you can have many versions of the model that run at any particular time, and they are just numbered. So if you want 5 different versions of your product catalog segmentation model, that's no problem. You'll have the segmentation codes. Now we have 64 segmentation codes, right? And then you have your company hierarchy, Acme Holding and Acme Corp, and the company regions and things like that. So all those things are normal. Countries, France, Germany, Italy, those sort of things. 4 different regions, Central, East, Central, East, North, South, West, 5 regions, different states, different provinces, these kinds of things. So they were all put in there as parameters. We can see on this particular report that in segment 1 we have 9 customers who scored 90 points for the average of 10 points per customer. Okay, so this is telling us how many customers are in each segment. Now segments might get different names and things like that. Points variance tells us if we take two different run dates and we compare the performance of the customer base across those 2 different run dates, we can say segment 1 points variance, it's 1/3. Okay, so segment 02 points variance 58%. That's on a chart. On a report it looks like this. So in run 1, if we show the report parameters, run date 1 was the 1st of the 6th 2012, run number 1, and run date 2 was the 2nd of the 6th 2012, run number 1. And it shows us in run 1 there are 18 customers, or 9 customers with 135 points. Segment 2, 9 customers with 215 points for this many points per customer. But in run 2 it was 9 and 90, 9 and 90, 10, and then this showed the variance. Now there was no variance in the number of customers, same number of customers were in each segment, 9 and 9, just the test data, but the number of points and the number of points per customer did vary. So what this is saying is if we run the customer segmentation algorithms on 2 different dates, it's going to tell us by segment how many customers have changed and what's the points profile per customer for those changes. Very useful stuff. Now segment membership points is an example where things get put onto a chessboard. So segment 0 is totals, and then you can see from segment 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So top right hand quadrant is the first 16 segments. Top left hand quadrant is the next set of segments. And then bottom left, bottom right. Now it can be, if you choose to, that a position on the chessboard has meaning. Okay? Top right could be good, bottom left could be bad. Okay? That is really up to you. But what it's showing you is that you can create a 64 segment chessboard. So you can create a segmentation model. You can have 64 segments in the segmentation model. You can have as many versions of that model as you like, and you can run all your customer sales through this processing to place customers into segments for each of the models. And then you can see on here each of the 64 segments, how many customers fit into that segment, and how many, the number of points purchased and the points per customer. So the reason to convert it to points is to get away specifically from using money as the measure for the segmentation engine. Yeah? Now if you want to, if 64 segments is not enough for you, then obviously you can run 2 different models, actually meaning different things, and have model 1 and model 2. So use the versions of the model for different actual models, rather than just different versions of the same model. So this is extremely useful. This is, I can take information from the transactional sales of an organization, and for those transactions that tell me something about the customer, I can put the information, I can tag them as being in a specific segment, and then see what the performance of that segment is. Okay? Very, very handy stuff. Now the variance then goes on to show us that if I have two runs, run date 1, and I hit go, hopefully there will be some variance data in here. It's all red, but it's showing me the first run and the second run, so 18 350 1944 versus 18 180 10, and it's calculating the variance amounts, and it's setting it to red because of the the amount of the variance, and it is negative, considered negative. Okay, so this will allow you to calculate these kind of variances from one run to the next. Now other things that we have on here are things like recency, segment member recency, and recency variance. So we'll just say it has recency, frequency, monetary value, and things like that. So recency says how recently did the customer buy in this segment. So we'll just go through here, model version 1, run date. So for segment 1, recency, this is months. The 0 month means the current month, and then 1 through 12 is for the entire year. How many customers bought in each month in each segment as to the last time they bought something. So this is telling you in each segment how recently customers have bought in that segment. And then membership recency as a chart. We'll just say yes. We'll pick 01. This is the same information presented graphically with the same report below it. So that has for recency, frequency, monetary value, and things like that. All those things are quite similar. Now if we get to monetary, because that's always interesting, here we are ranking customers across value. So we're breaking monetary value into 10 segments and counting the number of customers in each of those 10 segments by PCS segment. Okay. Let's go to a different one. A little bit graphically. Showing the same thing graphically, the monetary segments and the number of customers in those segments. And then this is a summary, and then this is a breakdown by segment code. So this has the summary of all these. If I drilled on a single one, let's say PCS segment 02, that would change. Now it says PCS segment 01 rather than all, and the only table below is the 01 table. So I can drill in on an individual product catalog segment. and then there's monetary variance, and then there's the actual monetary value. So they were monetary segments broken up into 10, and all the segments are broken up into 10. Now we have monetary value, and we can see the actual number of euros that have been purchased in each segment and the number of customers who've purchased that similar monetary value. And the values are staggered a little bit to the full euros. And if you want to see that on a chart, then we see this kind of thing, where the blue is number of customers and the gold is the value of those number of customers. So here we see this kind of thing being done. Segment 01, segment 02, value, number of customers. Now, of course it says all again here. So again, if I pick a particular segment code, let's say 1, and hit view report, then we've drilled in on a single segment code. We've got the number of customers as 1, but the monetary value is going up, obviously, because as you go up in the segments, there is a higher level of monetary value to what the segments are for. The next one to show is the segmentation correlation strength. So we've said that we have PCS segments of 64 segments, but these segments can be correlated to each other by customer membership. So if I go in and I click view report on here, and there is a slight problem with this report which I will explain, what it's going to do is match the 64 by 64 segments and create a matrix of the 64 by 64 segments. Now here are the 64 segments down the left hand side. There is a problem in the rendering of this report currently, which is not putting the 64 segment names across here, but just on this report. So there are 64 segments across here, and the percentage gives us a percentage read on the level of correlation between these two segments. So what it does is it calculates the total number of customers in the first segment and then the total number of customers in the second segment and correlates those two as a percentage. So as the percentage goes up, the customer is more likely to be participating in both segments, and this gives us an opportunity analysis for later segmentation. So if I look at the correlation segment strength for details, I click yes and click 01. This is going to produce more information. The first one being just a percentage indicator. And as you can see, what's strange is in this report, the segment names show up, and this is supposed to be exactly the same, so there is a rendering problem with report services in this report. So in the last report, you were shown just the percentage number. In this report, you're shown the, let me get to the, can't find the legend will be at the bottom. The revenue, I think it's the number of customers and number of points and the revenue, and that gives you a correlation level between those two. If we go to the end of the report, we should see the legend. So it's the number of customers in this segment, the monetary value purchased, the number of points purchased, and a segment statistic. So number of customers, monetary value purchased, number of points purchased, and the statistic that's calculated out of it, such as 6%. Okay. Now this is very handy. These things are very handy because they're telling you how strongly are two different segments correlated. And when you see segments correlated, for example, women's trousers and handbags, you can see that these two things typically sell to the same customer. This report is telling you what items typically sell to the same customers. That's what it is all about. Now there are other reports here that are not available on this window. The segment correlation opportunity report is if you have information about correlation opportunities and you can start building that up over time, you can use this report to estimate the possible revenue from a campaign with high, medium, low estimates using this report. There are two reports which are the segmentation strength correlation reports. However, they have problems being deployed onto report services because of limitations with report services, and they run in the Visual Studio Designer. They're available as downloads from the website so that you can have a look at them. They just won't run under this screen. Again, they're intended as examples of what's possible to be done. So in this demonstration of what I've done with campaign analysis, sales analysis and segmentation analysis, the purpose of showing you this is to show you examples of what can be done, not necessarily what you would do if you didn't use report services. If you are a customer who does use report services, then this is a good starting point for being able to then build out a suite of reports that you want for your organization. Now that brings us to the end of the recording of this video. I'm going to slice this into the presentation video and wrap the presentation around this. And now, if I've done my job properly, you should have just seen a 45-minute presentation of the reports. And so now let us summarize. What we've shown you in this demonstration of the reports is we've answered the question, why have report services reports in the first place? Then we talked about the fundamental design techniques of those reports, what is common across those reports, and I showed you the custom assembly that shows you this is how the report calls the custom assembly. Of course, in report services, all the parameters are drill downs calling stored procedures, and all the objects on the palette for the report also called stored procedures. There were three subject areas: campaign analysis, sales analysis and segmentation analysis, and you saw demonstrations of those. And so lastly, we'd just like to sum up and say thank you very much for your time for looking at the reports that are associated with BI4ALL. As I said, you can download the PDFs for these reports and look at them to your heart's content. They're there for anybody to sit down and read and think about and learn from. They're part of our package that we put out, but they're not part of really what we're selling. We're selling them as a baseline set of reports which can be used as input to thinking about how reports should be done. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you listening. I look forward to hearing from you soon.